going on, guys? This is Chris with Kingship Tech. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. This is a channel all about the tech gear related videos for the amateur user, the non-professional. So again, hit that subscribe button for more videos coming your way. But in today's video, I want to talk all about the Canon M50 for mid 2019 and how it stacks up maybe for the best. Let's get into it. All right, so it's mid 2019. There are loads of choices when it comes to cameras, and that's why I'm narrowing it down to the area of vlogging, where you are doing all the video work on your own by yourself and you're filming yourself. Now, there is no perfect camera out there. It doesn't exist, and we can argue all day long about what the perfect camera looks like, but no camera exists that's absolutely perfect. There's only the perfect compromise, all right? And that's based on what you or me are willing to compromise on. So just like the area of business, you can have quality product, price, and customer service, but you cannot have all three at the same time. It doesn't exist. You always have to compromise in one area. So let's narrow it down to the vlogging, right? The vlogging style cameras. And then you have to narrow it down to the budget of $500. The reason I'm saying that is because if I'm gearing this towards an amateur like myself, I'm not going to go out and buy a $2,000 camera. While it would be nice and I dream of it often, eventually I'll get there, but right now the $500 range is where I am, and I think where most of the community is, especially people starting out. So the Canon M50 mid 2019, it's a fairly old camera now, and I have to talk about it because I still think it is a really good option for you. So what makes a vlogging camera so special, like a good vlogging camera? For one, the size. Now, size is a big deal when it comes to vlogging because you want to carry your camera everywhere you go or to places. That way you can actually record your life, what you're doing. You don't want to do that if it's something that's big and clunky and heavy. For this video, I went ahead and stripped down the whole M50 down to its stock form. I normally have a cage, an adapter, and I use full frame lenses and all that stuff, so it's a lot bigger deal, a lot heavier product. But for this video, I wanted to go ahead and put it back into what you would get right out of the box, and then I added an external microphone. So this is actually a very small camera, not the smallest, but it is a very small camera and it is very lightweight. Another good thing, here's a big one, the screen. You gotta have a flip out screen. Crucial. If you're filming by yourself, you gotta be able to see yourself, see the exposure settings, what you're doing, if you're even in focus, that kind of stuff. It is very critical. If it's a flip up screen, if it's a flip to the side screen, it's very important. That has to be, in my mind, it's required for a camera or vlogging camera. Audio is a big deal. So this has a mic jack, thankfully, and otherwise I would not have purchased it as a vlogging camera. There are the cameras like the G7X and the Sony RX100, among other point and shoot cameras that have flip to the side, flip up screens, which you can use, but you typically, until now, do not have a mic jack available to you, and therefore you have to deal with the onboard audio, and those typically are not very good at all. You pick up everything. They're stereo microphones, so you pick up everything, and that is important if you're going to be vlogging. If you have a good video, a good story, but you can't really understand it, and because of the wind noise or background noises or anything like that, it's gonna be put, no one's gonna want to watch it, and it's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be fun. One of the most important things I should have probably said in the very beginning is autofocus. Autofocus is absolutely, it's probably right up there with audio, because if you have a camera that you're just using by yourself, autofocus is not good. I mean, come on. This is the Canon dual pixel autofocus. I never have to worry about it not focusing on my face. Face detection, it tracks me everywhere I go. It can come in and out, in and out. Oh yeah, it's tracking me perfectly. So I never have to worry about it. You have to find a camera that has good autofocus. This meets everything I need for autofocus. I love it. Another big one actually is battery life. For small cameras, battery life is kind of not its strength, let's put it that way. But in this stock setup, it does really well for battery life. If I was to film or video all day long, I typically would get probably 2 batteries for the whole day of recording. Now that I added extra stuff like the speed booster and the full frame lenses, that drains my battery a lot faster, and I have to replace them probably 3 to 4 instead of 2 to 3. Always have batteries on hand. So what does that mean for this thing? In the $500 price range, there really isn't anything on the market that comes close to the feature-packed Canon M50. I came from the Sony background, and I said that in another video, but you know, the Sony is a great product. They have great cameras. They just didn't, at the time, have anything that fulfilled or filled all the needs that I needed for a full-time vlogging setup. Canon did with their Canon M50. Now the M50 is not, again, the perfect camera, but it is the perfect camera in this price range, the perfect compromise. If you're just starting out or picking up a camera wanting to get started, the Canon M50, you're going to understand it. It's going to be easy to manipulate and control all the settings. They make it because it's an entry-level camera, so you can pick it up, you can put it in auto mode and it'll be perfect, or you can be more customizable, put it in manual mode, which I highly recommend. I need you guys to learn how to take control of your cameras and manipulate it the way you want it to. The M50 is an entry-level camera, but because now I'm growing out of those things, like I really want more pro features, the M50 is reaching its limitations for myself. I'm getting slower at using it. Like I can't get the shots that I want. It takes a little bit more time. What I'm compromising on are the buttons. More pro cameras have pro features like custom buttons, more dial, like a second scroller on your thumb. That way you can control your aperture, or you can set it to control your shutter speed or your aperture, ISO, whatever you want to bounce in between those things. I want those features in my next camera. So that's my compromise for the $500 range. What do I expect for 500 bucks? This is actually really good for 500 bucks. All right, compromise, guys. Let's think about that. The lens is actually really good. No complaints. It's a 15 to 45. It's a good range. It's basically this equivalent in a full frame to a 24, which is very, still wide. It's a good wide angle. If you were to go with the SL2, which I'm going to talk about later, this is the lens you're going to get in 18. It's a lot closer, and this is an arm's length away distance. I mean, it's not that much different, but it makes a difference, okay? And the other option would be to get like a Gorilla Pod or something in, or whatever. I have this setup where I can angle it further away from me, and that's fine too. The nice thing about widening lenses is you can get closer, the audio is better, but then you're too close to my face. All right, I think that's it for right now. I'm gonna take it inside for the rest of the video. Okay, so we're back in the office. Let's go over some of the reasons why the M50 is a killer of a camera for $500. Size, the weight. I weighed everything on this camera. You have the lens, the camera body, the battery, the camera card, and the microphone. I weighed it all together. It weighed in at 642 grams. That is pretty darn light for the whole setup. Flip screen, mic jack, autofocus is awesome. 24 frames, 60 frames per second. Some cameras, the older cameras, did not have 60p. Now every camera is going to have 60p 1080, and that's crucial. That's basically the basics of what you need. 120 frames per second would be awesome, especially if you want to be more creative, do a lot of B-roll with slow motion and whatever. 60 frames per second, 60p in other words, is very doable, and most people just get away with 60p like I have for my entire YouTube creating life. This has 120, but I don't even consider it to be usable. Autofocus doesn't work well at all, and it goes to 720p. Lenses, wide angle lenses is crucial for vlogging. I mean, you're not going to do that with anything wider than an 18mm. You really don't want to. But even that is a little bit too up close and personal for, you know, a 1.6 times crop for the APS-C lineup. This is a 15mm. This one does not overheat, unlike the Sony lineups, with the exception of the current A6400 and the A6500, I think are pretty well not going to overheat on you. Okay, these are things that are not required but are a huge plus for people like me that like a little bit more, right? I'm a nerd, I'm a tech nerd, so I like a little bit more. The accessory market needs to be there. You have a nice camera, but the accessory market is not there. It just limits you for what you need. Accessories, what I mean is like the adapters to be able to adapt different lenses to it. Are the adapters available? Are they prevalent? Viltrox makes a really cool adapter speed booster that you can mount EF mounted lenses on here, full frame lenses, and get full frame view. That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about for the accessory market. Lenses and lens pricing. Now Canon is very affordable with their lens. They have a huge lens lineup going from affordable to extremely expensive. And then if you want to check out third-party lenses, they also go from affordable to very expensive. But I would consider a vlogging lens to be a 10mm, 10 to 18 range. For APS-C, 10mm is really good. For example, 10 to 18 Canon STM, it's an awesome lens, super lightweight, very affordable, is roughly on the used market about $200 used. The 10 to 18 Sony lens comes at a whopping $700 to $800 used on the used market. Four times as much as the same lens with Canon. So my point is, it's so much more affordable when you go with the Canon lineup, and that's another reason why I was pushed towards Canon. The viewfinder, the EVF, I needed it personally. It's not required, but I need it because I like to dabble in photography, and the EVF is the only way to do it. I mean, you get everything in view. You don't get any discoloration from the LCD screen if the sun's on it. You get everything. You need it. So there are a few cameras out there that don't have it, and vlogging style cameras that don't have it. Great if all you're gonna do is vlog, but if you want to also do some photography, you need an EVF. I really think it's necessary. And the versatility of it. So this camera is probably one of the most versatile cameras I've ever owned. Ability to use full frame lenses and get full frame view. Then the sky's the limit, because you could have, like my Tamron 17 to 35 millimeter is 17 to 35. I can get that full range. I can also get a regular adapter without the speed booster and get a 27 millimeter to 56 millimeter. So it's I have one lens, a huge broad spectrum of views I can get out of just one lens because of the adapter availability. I can't say the same thing about Sony. Now you can get speed boosters for Sony, like the Metabones, but they're way expensive. I paid $150 for the speed booster from Viltrox, and it's an excellent speed booster. Now, real quick, let's go over some cameras I wrote down. Other cameras in the competition, all right? I was just trying to, but you know, again, this is a $500 price range. It's really tough to beat. The A6000 in the used market you can get for $500. That's what I used in the past, and it did the job for a while, actually, for 7-8 months or so of YouTube video making, and I did a lot of videos with the A6000. It was a beast of a camera. I made it work. So the A6000 weighs in with everything at 546 grams, which is about 100 grams lighter than the A6000. It truly is a tiny camera, smaller than this one. And the way they have the viewfinder set to the side of the camera it makes it a really flat profile on top. It's just like a square. It's a really nice camera. I actually missed that part of it. I liked having it to the side. My nose was to the side like this, and it never really smudged the screen with my nose. It's just the little things that you pay attention to. Had great autofocus and great image quality, but that's really where the pros stopped. There was no mic jack, no flip screen, battery sucked, it overheated constantly. All right, next up, Panasonic G85, an oldie but a goodie, right? It's larger, it's a little bit harder to just carry around with you everywhere you go. Weighs in at 715 grams, that's pretty heavy. So pros, 4K, and I didn't mention anything about 4K in the M50 because it does also do 4K, but I don't use it. I don't plan on using anytime soon. As an amateur user, I don't think you should use it. It's a lot bigger file sizes, a lot harder to render and edit and all that jazz. There's nothing wrong with 1080p. I stick with 1080p. Mic jack, flip screen, battery life is really good, but the cons are the size and the autofocus. Autofocus, big deal, which is why it was a no-go. Essentially, all of the Panasonic Lumix lineup has autofocus. I would not trust it. Panasonic lineup is awesome. They have great cameras. I've heard nothing but good things. If you're a filmmaker, you're working behind the scenes, right? And you're behind the camera and you're adjusting all the settings on the fly. Everything is right there. It has buttons all over the thing. Yeah, I mean, that is an awesome feature-packed, crazy features in those cameras for filmmaking. But if you're going to be vlogging, I would not recommend it. It has a 2x crop instead of a 1.5 or 1.6x crop. Lens selections, when you can find them, they're really expensive, so that's even harder. And then the autofocus isn't reliable. Fuji is another one that either the X-T3 has great autofocus, but that's really the only thing I've heard of in the Fuji lineup that has great autofocus, but they don't have a flip out screen. Now again, you can get away with it, but the Fuji X-T3 is not in this price range. It's like $1,500 to $2,000 for the Fuji. The Canon SL2, that's a pretty outstanding camera for the price. It is a EFS mounted camera. It is also a mirrored camera. This is a mirrorless camera. The reason I didn't go with SL2, there's a couple reasons. One, size. It's just a bigger camera, bulkier camera. Two, mirror. It has a mirror rather than mirrorless. Now, it's not a big deal. It still does YouTube. It still does vlogging very, very well. But the future of cameras as we know it is mirrorless, and so I wanted to stick with that. Third reason, I said two. The third reason is the capability of seeing everything in your EVF live. So if I'm taking photography, if I'm taking pictures, if I look through the EVF on the Canon M50, I see everything live. If I look through the EVF on a Canon SL2 or a mirrored Canon, I can't rely on that at all. I can use the LCD screen, but then everything slows down after that, right? But this one, I can look through here, change my settings, ISO, my aperture, everything, and I can see everything live. What I see is what I'm gonna get. With the mirrored camera, that is not the case. And so for that reason alone, I didn't really want to, I'm not that good of a photographer to rely only on that. I know, I probably should learn, maybe eventually, but that's why I went with this setup. It's smaller. Yeah, sure, the M mount series not as big and broad, but you can easily fix that with an adapter. And there you go, it's done, it's fixed, plus your body is still small. The M5 is probably the biggest contender that I'm willing to try, and I'm working to buy one so I can do a side-by-side comparison. This thing has way more pro features than the M50, and even though the flip down screen, which is a big problem if I want to do this kind of stuff mounted to a tripod, but there's ways around it. I think I can deal with it, and I want to try it and then do a comparison. So that is that. I think I'm done with all of this. I hope you learned something. If you did, like this, like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and please stick around for more videos coming your way. The Amateur Channel Tech Gear channel. That said it right. See you guys later. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.